Meet Acme Coffee Roasters, a leading coffee retailer with both physical stores and an online e-commerce website. As part of their digital transformation strategy, they would like to expand their online presence, better serving existing customers, and win new customers through digital channels such as their new mobile application, third-party developers, and a wide range of existing business partners. During the course of this demo, we'll be following our different personas interacting with IBM API Connect to fulfill different tasks that work toward a range of use cases and highlight many of the capabilities of the platform. Starting with Andre, our business partner application developer, we'll follow them as they leverage Acme Coffee Roasters API Marketplace to discover, subscribe, and test APIs through a customized experience. Next, we'll work with Siobhan as they build a range of APIs for both external and internal users across a wide set of platforms. We'll get to see how API Connect supports REST, GraphQL, SOAP, and events as managed APIs. We will also see Siobhan leveraging the AI-powered API testing capabilities to improve their developer productivity while at the same time improving API quality and consistency. With our APIs created, Mira, our API product manager, will build out new products out of collections of APIs, publish them through a comprehensive lifecycle model, and when appropriate, add premium monetization plans to support new revenue channels via API subscriptions. Mira will also review analytics from across the platform to gauge API adoption and other insights. We will also check out the new real-time security and threat and anomaly detection to complement the robust security policies already provided by the platform. In transition from the runtime analysis, we'll review with Ben, our security admin, the ease at which different security configurations can be set and managed. From the management of certificates, flexibility in authentication and authorization through industry standards such as OAuth providers and OIDC registries, and the granular role-based access controls already built into the platform. We will wrap up with Owen, Acme's infrastructure admin, who will give us a bird's-eye view of the platform and how API Connect's modular approach enables a flexible hybrid architecture. Don't worry, we'll keep our personas visible as we move through the different sections, and with that, let's get started with the developer portal and Andre. Acme Coffee Roasters using IBM API Connect has built a thriving API marketplace for engaging with their partner ecosystem, as well as supporting their internal teams. The capabilities provided by API Connect's developer portal fulfills all the requirements across the diverse set of use cases that they have. IBM provides an out-of-box developer portal that is fully integrated and ready to go, perfect for internal API catalogs. Acme Coffee Roasters also wants to leverage the portal's full capabilities and customizations for external business partners as they understand the value of extending their corporate identity and brand into their API marketplace. Leveraging the extensive ability to customize and brand the portal experience, leveraging and extending the IBM-provided portal templates. Acme Coffee Roasters portal is fully customized with its welcome section and some cool graphics. They have added terms and conditions, privacy policies to comply with GDPR. They have also have their sign-up customized and a department code to distinguish between internal versus external users. Acme Coffee Roasters partner ecosystem supported by APIs includes retailers, warehouses, payment processors, direct-to-consumer purchases, and more. Today we'll be following a new partner, Just-in-Time Gifts. API Connect Developer Portal supports many different authorization options, including federated identity with OIDC, such as Google, LinkedIn, GitHub, Facebook, Auth URL, LDAP, and API Connect Local User Registry. Andre, the lead developer from Just-in-Time Gifts, has already signed up and has been approved. Andre has other developers working on his team that need to consume Acme Coffee Roasters APIs. He can easily invite them to the Just-in-Time Gifts account and delegate different levels of access to the Acme portal. Next, let's follow Andre as they look at different APIs that Acme Coffee Roasters has made available. It is easy enough to browse the different products that contain one or more APIs, which could be REST, SOAP, Async API, and GraphQL. In addition, Acme has published partner APIs, such as Yelp reviews, that are not enforced by the API gateway, but still discoverable in the portal. Some products only contain a single API, where there's other products, such as this one, that contain a collection of APIs that can be used to subscribe all at once as part of the collection. Acme Coffee Roasters has categorized some of their products and APIs for marketing purposes to make it easy to find items classified as such. It is also just as easy to search for a given API, such as the orders product that Andre needs to start his project. From the product, Andre can subscribe to gain access to the product and all the APIs included. In this case, just the orders API. As part of the subscription process, Andre is choosing to create a new application that will be tied to this subscription. When applications are created in the just-in-time Gifts account, they are not linked to a single user. Anyone on Andre's team with the proper access can create and modify them. In the application form, Andre can provide optional X509 and OAuth redirects, as well as our department code that Acme Coffee is using as part of billing. At this point, API Connect provides Andre with the generated client ID and secret for the app. Any other subscriptions that are associated with this app will use the same client ID and secret, simplifying Andre's client code, as all the calls will use the same ID and secret. Right from within the developer portal, Andre can review the documentation, look at example code in different languages, and exercise the APIs to see how they work and validate that they support the transactions and business processes that he is building for just-in-time gifts without spending additional time writing code. From the application's dashboard, Andre can review analytics for all the different API calls that he's consuming, managing the API keys and secrets if they need to be changed, review subscriptions associated with each application, and review any notifications from the platform. Acme has been able to nurture and grow communities by harnessing social aspects of the portal. For instance, Andre finds it very useful to find more information about the Orders API from their product pages. Blogs, discussion forums, general and API specific, FAQs, ratings are all aspects that Acme uses to engage with their partners and user communities to help deliver a robust API marketplace. When highly customized and branded marketplaces or portals are not required, such as for internal consumers and test environments, Acme has started using the new API Consumer Catalog. This new feature is enabled with a single click from the manager and does not require any additional infrastructure, portal, or content management system to be deployed, helping reduce operational costs and complexity. Login to the Consumer Catalog leverages the same user registries that can be configured for the full developer portal, and these two user interface experiences can run side by side for the same catalog. The API Consumer Catalog provides a simplified interface focused on the core needs of an API consumer, allowing them to discover the products and APIs published to a given catalog, review the documentation and check out any code samples, and then of course use the integrated no-code testing. When requesting access to a given product or API, developers can either reuse existing applications with their associated client IDs and secrets, or choose to leverage the built-in workflows to create new applications as needed. All of these same operations can be driven via CLI or API Connect Platform API as part of the development pipeline. Let's switch gears from the API consumers, using the developer portal and consumer catalog, to our API provider at Acme Coffee Roasters with the API Manager user interface. For now, we will be in the perspective of Siobhan, an API developer who is part of the commerce team at Acme Coffee Roasters and is developing APIs for their business partners. This is the new API provider home screen that streamlines access to different getting started guides, APIs and products that Siobhan has recently viewed, shortcuts to common tasks and tools, and links to documentation, demos, and more. Acme Coffee Roasters has decided to leverage IBM's Watson X for their suite of new LLM services. Instead of having the clients and apps call the Watson X API service directly, Acme has decided to secure it via API Connect's new AI gateway. All Siobhan needs to do is provide the IBM Cloud API key, service region, operation version, and project ID to build and test the new gateway service. With both response caching and rate limiting based on AI token consumption of the API consumer, this service is already providing added wallet protection and performance optimization in front of the backend Watson X service. The API that is created is an Open API v3 compliant contract with the 3 paths already defined. Later, Siobhan can go back and modify or enhance the contract as needed. The gateway policies are pre-configured based on the inputs provided, but the whole flow can be customized with a rich set of policies just like any other API in API Connect. To validate that the service works, let's go to the Test tab and enable Auto Publish. We will leave all the settings to the default sandbox, but this could be tested with a range of target conditions right from our editor. The integrated test client populates the client ID with our auto-published client, and we have provided a sample input. Without any modifications, we get a successful response from our new AI Gateway service. Before leaving, we can also preview the API Explorer to get a quick view of how the API will be surfaced to the API consumer, either with our developer portal or consumer catalog, as shown earlier in the demo. To additionally validate this API as a client, let's drop over to an external tool and run a few quick tests. Checking that we get the expected response when no client ID is passed, thus getting blocked at the gateway. Next, we'll run our test again, but this time validate that our cache is working with, again, a valid client ID. The second request came back in a fraction of the time, improving our client's experience, and because it was cached, no AI tokens were consumed by the watsonx backend service, reducing Acme Coffee Roaster's potential long-term cost. Now, a little time has passed since publishing into our sandbox, and this new API has 4 subscribers. We can drill down into the new AI usage dashboard as part of analytics to get a better understanding of the service consumption. With high-level metrics for total token requests and total tokens consumed, to a range of heat maps into what workloads are happening at which times. This dashboard provides a unique breakdown of data, such as the different AI models, by usage, to levels of cache hits, that can help Acme make informed decisions about their AI adoption and expansion for both internal and external consumers of their service. We'll explore other parts of the analytics, dashboards, and reports later in this demo. In the rapid growth of API utilization by developers, especially in microservices, Acme Coffee Roasters has ended up with a large number of shadow APIs that are not under API management. Siobhan is going to make use of API Connect's new feature called API Discovery. We see that right now there are no discovered APIs or connected data sources. API Discovery is able to reconstruct APIs from proxy collectors with IBM's provided implementations for Istio, OpenTelemetry, and DataPower Proxy. API Discovery can also ingest existing APIs by scanning source code repos such as GitHub with the IBM-provided Git action. Siobhan has an application running in OpenShift with Istio that she wants to generate OpenAPI contracts to understand the shape of the APIs that are already running in the system. A quick clone of the IBM-provided repo and a few simple configuration steps, including our discovery endpoint, security key, and provider organization. This extends the Istio envoy with the IBM OpenTelemetry collector that sends the payload data back to IBM API Connect's discovery service for analysis. We drive a little traffic by logging into the site. Now we can come back to the discovery and see that the new data source has been registered, and on the API tab we can see all the different APIs that was called during the login process. Let's look at that login generated contract. An OpenAPI specification v3 contract has been generated based on the behavior of our successful login. As more traffic is monitored with different conditions, additional paths, parameters, and/or response codes will get added to the contract. Once we are happy with the generated contract, we can copy it into drafts and start managing and enhancing the contract just as we would with any other API in API Connect. For the moment, Siobhan is going to shift away from the login API and onto the existing orders API. From the editor, before we make any changes, we can validate that there are no technical errors in the contract, such as malformed YAML or missing required values, and this is automatically done at every save and publish action. API Connect provides Siobhan a rich OpenAPI editor for APIs either in the GraphQL form view or when working directly in the YAML. IBM has provided an integrated API assistant that provides suggestions on how to improve the quality and consumability of the API contract by providing documentation recommendations. Selecting the recommendations highlights the suggested edit in YAML for acceptance prior to modifying the file. In the gateway policy, we can see that this service is a composite of 2 separate backends. Using the graphical mapping policies, Siobhan is able to configure the input for each of the 2 backend invokes, as well as mapping the 2 different responses back into the payload for the requester. If additional functionality was required, API Connect provides a wide range of logic, actions, security, transform, and additional policies. We see that there's a no-name enforcement policy at the beginning, and we'll see this in action a little bit later. To continue checking the API against best practices as defined by Acme Coffee Roasters, Siobhan can validate any of their APIs at any time against the rule sets. This consists of linting rules provided by Acme Coffee Roasters as well as industry and IBM best practices. A new scorecard is generated every time to provide Siobhan insights into which errors, if any, needs to be remediated. The creation and management of rule sets will be shown later in the demo. As we are making changes to our APIs, Siobhan wants to get A/B feedback from her API consumers. With API Connect, it's easy to do a deep copy of the API, make any changes that are being scoped for review, and then publish out both of the versions into the catalog. In this case, Siobhan has published both APIs in the same product, but they could have easily been published in different products as well. Getting A/B feedback is also easy with forums and comments provided directly in the developer portal from our users, as well as a range of analytics insights that will be shown later. If Siobhan wants to run her own A/B tests, API Connect provides a range of automated testing capabilities, from Auto Test Assist to Smart Generation, which will be shown in a later section. We can move on to our next item, which is the sales team at Acme Coffee Roasters needs to capture sales lead information into Salesforce through an internal API that also eliminates the need to share Salesforce credentials and simplifies the internal format. Often the data that we are trying to access has not been exposed with the REST API, has complexity that we don't want to expose, or we need to add additional integration logic in front of the service. Following a no-code flow provided by App Connect Designer, the integrated authoring experience, our new API is created with an integration to our Salesforce Create Leads backend. App Connect Designer has hundreds of pre-built connectors to a wide range of databases, enterprise integration protocols such as MQ, Kafka, AMQP, and other SaaS connectors like Workday, Slack, Asana, and more. API Gateway also supports multiple protocols like DirectMQ, event streams which can be extended into API Manager. The designer interface features AutoSuggest to help you map from your input request fields into the Salesforce connector, as well as then providing the same type of mapping to allow you to generate your response, pulling from data from both the Salesforce response as well as the original request. Right from the designer interface, we can access the OpenAPI definition to add additional metadata or review security parameters, and then we can go over into the gateway policies and add additional functionalities such as the rate limiting policy. Then we can enable our API to be active in our sandbox catalog and test the API to make sure it meets our needs. Now it is currently available in our sandbox catalog for internal users. So far, all of the development Siobhan has done has been accomplished through API Connect's web-based interface. IBM solutions also provide full local development and testing capabilities as shown in this next section on GraphQL. One of the new projects is to expose existing data services as GraphQL exposed endpoints, and Acme has chosen to use IBM Create and run the GraphQL server and API Connect to secure and socialize the endpoint. Starting with the empty project, Siobhan uses the StepSend CLI to log into their service instance and initiate their project. Everything built in this workspace will be created under the Coffee Customer endpoint. Using powerful introspection capabilities, Siobhan can use the import command against any number of data sources, in this case a database, to automatically build a GraphQL service with data types from the columns, query definitions based on the tables, primary key and foreign key relationships maintained, and provide suggested paginations, as well as creating mutations for the different tables found. All of the generated configurations are declarative text that can be easily read and modified as needed. No complex code, libraries, or frameworks needed. The server takes the configuration and does all the heavy lifting. At the moment, Siobhan only needs the one backend database, but over time this can extend to a project to include services hosted by REST, SOAP-XML, or other databases, and additional GraphQL endpoints that can be federated and the data into a unified GraphQL API. After running the command StepSend start, our GraphQL service is published into our runtime environment of IBM API Connect Essentials. From the Essentials Manager interface, we can interact with the runtime. From here, we can leverage the built-in GraphQL editor, launch accelerators and getting started, and view the endpoint currently hosted on this instance. IBM API Connect Essentials has provided analytics dashboards and discovery that we'll explore in depth later on in this demo. The Getting Started offers several guided accelerators for building new GraphQL-based integrations for commonly requested services and data stores. Each of our services can be exercised via the GraphQL Explorer, with the interactive query builder that lets us easily exercise our service as well as browse the dynamic documentation generated from the introspection endpoint. When it is time to start coding, our developer can easily create client application sample code from the current query or mutation in a range of popular languages. At this point, we can take the GraphQL service and secure and manage it with API Connect. This time, keeping with the local development theme, we will use the workstation-installed API Designer to provide the same interface and capabilities as the web-hosted interface, but in a local toolkit, running in either offline mode or connected to an Acme API Connect environment. Siobhan will run an accelerator for creating a GraphQL managed service by using the GraphQL introspection endpoint to get all of the necessary details. As our backend is secured, we will also provide the authorization headers. As part of the import process, API Connect provides warnings of possible security and performance risks, and we'll come back to this in a bit. As next, we'll finish the basics to get our managed GraphQL API created, such as enabling or disabling the introspection for our consumers. When the service is created, API Connect provides all of the same OpenAPI specification contracts tailored this time for GraphQL services, so all of the metadata and configurations are built the same way as our other services in API Connect. The GraphQL schema is unique to this service type and provides a simplified way to apply corrections to any of the warnings, such as setting assumed sizes, slices, field sizes, and such. API Connect also provides a unique ability to remove types or fields based on this schema dynamically based on metadata such as the user's subscription plan. This doesn't just limit access, but it removes all references to the fields or types from any introspections, queries, mutations, and of course the results. Lastly, we can set the weight of each field and type, which is used in API Connect's GraphQL-specific rate-limiting calculations. As creating a new customer is a more expensive argument, it was decided to give that a higher weight in the system. As seen in the Gateway Policy tab, API Connect generates a comprehensive policy set for processing the GraphQL API calls, including specific paths for securing WebSocket requests. For all of our service types, not just GraphQL, IBM provides Acme ample tooling for local development and automation. API Designer, a local user interface as seen earlier. IBM also provides a local test environment that runs a locally managed gateway and manager, great for offline and local testing. A comprehensive CLI for driving platform automation, such as CI/CD, that has functionality for all of our personas, not just Siobhan, as well as the StepSend CLI that we have already seen. Acme Coffee Roasters uses IBM Event Endpoint Management for discovery and management of their event endpoints. It provides an easy interface to bring together different Kafka clusters and provide documentation of the topics and provide the ability to reuse these events in new projects. For Acme, they are needing to expose a topic for sourcing partners to send a stream of sensor recordings as events into the IBM event streams to a specific Kafka topic. Event Endpoint Management helps decouple the Kafka client from the backend Kafka brokers. Siobhan can proceed to create an async API that can be imported into API Connect with a very simple wizard-driven flow and a user experience. From here, this async API is published into the developer portal that offers discovery and self-service access for both our REST, SOAP, GraphQL, and async APIs together in one unified view. In the development phase, Siobhan can use the latest Auto Test Assist to find any server-side errors or non-conformance errors without having to write any test cases. This uses random bias models to automatically generate thousands of requests based on the OAI specification. Autotest scans the API document and extracts semantic information that will inform its generation of the requests. This is called the API extension derived from the OAI spec to look at the resources and their dependencies. Next step is to set the configuration before running the profile, like pointing the server URL to the deployment, how long the test should run, and control settings and more. Default configurations can get the test started. Next, Siobhan adds the correct client credentials prior to Auto Test Assist running over 1,000 generated tests in a matter of seconds. The Overview tab presents a tabular view on the number of responses for each status code and how many succeeded and failed within each category. API Call tabs have more detailed view of each API call made in this run. With Auto Test Assist, Siobhan can iteratively develop and test APIs. As APIs are promoted to higher environments like quality assurance, or pre-production, testing needs to be solidified to a set of test cases that are essential for testing guaranteed scenarios. With automated test generation with smart generation, it creates a set of test assertions within seconds. This uses natural language processing to determine the dependencies between two operations and creates a sequence of test assertions automatically. In this case, a post is done to create a customer ID and then the test for the getCustomerID operation. This eliminates the need to manually sequence API calls. These test cases can easily be integrated with DevOps pipelines using webhooks and an API key and secret provided to trigger a test run. We can use API Connect Smart Generation for OWASP Top 10 coverage or supplement the built-in testing with no-name securities active testing. It is designed to test APIs and identify vulnerabilities and security risks early in the application development lifecycle. A new application, Coffee Roasters, has been created. The Overview tab provides general info on the number of APIs, scans performed, open and closed issues. It provides a comprehensive view of the tests performed and the issues uncovered. The Scans tab contains a summary of scans performed. Active testing provides the following pre-configured test profiles, such as Extensive Scan, which has all the available security tests. One or more test profiles can be used for testing. Test profiles can also be created to group security tests based on the security testing needs. The Issues tab has details and statistics of the issues detected in the API scans over time to identify and monitor changes. Inventory lists all of the API endpoints that were scanned. In order to shift left early on, Acme Coffee Roasters has integrated these security tests as part of the CI/CD pipeline, as well as scheduling these tests at required frequencies. Having individual products with one API is simple enough, especially for internal API catalogs. But for Mira, our product manager, her job includes understanding the need for a logical go-to-market bundling of APIs. This is defined in API Connect as a first-class concept called API products, which so far we have just scratched the surface. API products are offered for subscription to API users on the developer portal. Products can bundle one or more APIs and are fully lifecycle managed along with the APIs that they include. And this is a key aspect of our product concept. So first we'll go ahead and create a new product. And this will include a few different APIs that make sense to bundle together from a business standpoint. Initially, we'll create a free plan that's limited to about 100 transactions per hour. When we publish this product, keeping it visible to all users of the developer portal, even if they're not logged in, and subscribable to only authenticated users. Of course, this can be highly customized to limit both the visibility and subscribability to specific consumer organizations. Just like APIs, products can be versioned. So as we have already published the initial version, we'll create a new one to add additional premium plans to the rate limiting offerings. As shown, plans can be marked if they require an approval workflow that's built into API Connect to simplify our task when it needs to be approved. So first we'll go ahead and add the plan, our premium tier, which is going to include call volume-based pricing. Plans can be marked if it requires approval. Go ahead and add a new rate limit. The rate limit the individual API consumers based on their arrival per second, minute, or hour. You can add a burst limit for any single endpoint. We're going to specify specific cost limits for GraphQL, as this doesn't use the traditional per second rate limiting. Optionally, if specific APIs or even operations of a given API need to have additional rate limit values, they can be further customized. Adding category tags can make it easier to search for these products in the developer portal. This time on publication, we'll limit the subscribability to consumer orgs that are part of our beta group. Lastly, we'll associate the Stripe billing provider to our product and modify the premium plan to include a free trial day, as well as a monthly subscription price. API Connect provides a built-in product lifecycle that was reviewed in depth against the state diagram during last year's demo. All those capabilities still remain, and we'd encourage you to review that content. API governance is the latest key feature to allow for Mira to maintain quality across all of the APIs being developed and published. With the new catalog and space validation scans, Mira is able to get the state of the estate, scanning all of the APIs published against one or more of the rule sets. A single rule set might be used to gauge the impact analysis of a single requested change. Mira can run as many different validations on the catalog or spaces as they find valuable, rerunning the scan at any time and reviewing the results to prior runs of that same scan. IBM has provided several rule sets that have been shared into this provider organization from the Cloud Manager. Mira can leverage these rule sets as well as create new rules that are scoped to this provider organization. Rule sets can be versioned and have their own visibility and publication lifecycle. The rules, built on the open source Spectral engine, can validate on anything in the API YAML, including any configurations in the gateway policies. Now that Acme Coffee Roasters has been managing their APIs with API Connect, the integrated analytics has become a goldmine of both data and insight on product and API utilization. Analytics services provide a wide range of data that is accessed at the catalog, provider organization, seeing data across multiple catalogs, or Cloud Manager for seeing data across multiple provider organizations. The data is presented in different forms with dashboards, discover, and reports. IBM has a rich set of pre-populated dashboards with key API metrics that help Mira and her team understand their API business value and determine problems quickly. Summary dashboards provide a quick overview of call volume, latencies, and frequencies. The product dashboard gives a glance into info on popular products. Client dashboard provides useful data on who is interacting with the APIs. Status dashboards provide overall performance of the APIs, and Mira can quickly drill down on the errors to quickly troubleshoot the cause. Gateway operations dashboards provides call volume and latency information for individual gateway services. Mira can use the Discover view to drill down at the API call level into a detailed view of the logged activities. She can apply numerous filters on specific attributes of the API event along with timeframe, status code, etc. to create analytics queries that can be saved as well as shared with others on the team for easy reuse. Filtering can also be applied to dashboards, so that way those individual dashboards can be highly customized. Accessing the analytics details via CLI or Platform API leveraging an SSO or bearer token from the user, so all the role-based access controls are maintained. All of the saved analytics queries can be copied as URL query strings to make using the API even easier. Back to the report view, it displays the long-term summary data that Mira can use to start looking across months to years of data to understand the bigger trends in the environment. For instance, the interactive consumer org report, Mira can see detailed data about inactivity in consumer organizations. It gives the percentages and numbers of consumer orgs with no applications, no subscriptions, no traffic, or no recent traffic in a specified time period. This allows Mira to take a course of action to help engage the clients in the right place at the right time. Inactive products report show products without subscriptions, products with no traffic, and products with no recent traffic. This is helpful to identify products that might need promoting or deprecating. With options to offload analytics data, Acme Coffee Roasters can easily send their API analytics to their external data management platform, such as Splunk, to support existing integrations between their data management platform and third-party or custom chargeback systems. In our case, we are also offloading the data to no-name security. Acme understands the need to augment API Connect security with real-time detection of and prevention of vulnerabilities and malicious attacks. For this, they are using API Connect's integration with no-name. As the first step, Acme offloads their analytics data to no-name's engines that obfuscate the data. No-name's backends identify unique calls through the API traffic. Leveraging AI and machine learning models for automated behavior analysis to detect anomalies, changes, and misconfigurations. The summary view of the findings can be seen in the Overview tab. The issues are categorized by 4 modules: runtime, posture, data, and recon. The posture module assesses the API and broader infrastructure for misconfiguration and vulnerabilities to identify risk. Categories of these findings include API exposure, data exposure, SSL posture, and many more. Here, no-name detects an API and a self-signed TLS certificate, which could be misused. Runtime analysis provides real-time visibility into how your APIs behave if they're exposing sensitive data or vulnerable to attack. Provides contextual insight into data leakage, data tampering, data policy violation, suspicious behavior, and API security attacks. It provides information on types of attacks and suggests how to remediate it. In reviewing this vulnerability scan, we can dig down into the greater details and look at the evidence that was provided. As part of the evidence, we can see that the request body was sent as an XML payload, but we were expecting to see JSON coming back. Instead of sending the proper error code, we responded with a 500. This is seen as a possible vulnerability issue. Based on the review of the vulnerability scan, we can choose to take action, such as alert a team as part of an enterprise workflow, or configure an immediate remediation to block the malicious user. This is done in NoName by selecting the NoName prevention policy, in this case to block the IP for 24 hours for further investigation. In API Connect, our API has leveraged the NoName prevention policy, which fetches the rules from NoName platform blocking this IP address. Every API request is validated against the current blocking rules, which are cached in the gateway for minimal performance impact. NoName also finds and inventories all APIs. The Stats tab provides a macro view of all the discovered APIs, number of APIs, data type classifications contained in the APIs such as PII, API type, authentication, to name a few. The APIs tab provides a granular view, providing a breakdown of host, method, and path at a level of granularity that the ML models are built on. It also lists what issues are contained, data types, additional metadata tags, and authentication used. This wraps up our review of the NoName dashboards. Now that we have seen how the platform can be monitored for active threats, let's pivot to Ben, the security administrator tasked with the fine balance of ensuring that the solution configuration meets or exceeds the security requirements of the business. API Connect delivers consistent and flexible security across all APIs through its support for security specifications such as OAuth, OpenID Connect, and Mutual TLS. All of the different security services and resources can be configured either at the global, provider org, catalog, or space. Globally scoped items such as default TLS providers, user registries, OAuth, and OIDC can be managed from the Cloud Administration Interface and will be shared across the environment to maximize compliance while eliminating configuration drift. This will be demoed by Owen, our infrastructure administrator, in a few minutes. Specific security controls, specific to an environment, line of business, use case, can then be defined at the lowest scope required, such as the space, catalog, or provider org needed to fulfill the security requirement, in doing so minimizing the impact of that scope and associated risk. From the Resources tab, Owen can complete several different tasks, including setting up user registries and TLS providers, OAuth providers, billing, and API governance. From the creating a user registry, there are multiple types of accelerators, including an OIDC user registry that has standard configurations for things like Google, GitHub, and Facebook. When setting up TLS certificates, it's easy to configure them centrally here at the provider org, so that way they can be consumed and reused across all the services that require them, providing one place to update them for all consumers. When configuring OAuth providers, either provide a local OAuth provider or a remote OAuth provider from a third party. For local OAuth providers, we can configure all of the different authorization paths and scopes, provide which scopes are required as part of that provider in its default natures, as well as customize the OAuth flow through a similar assembly process that we use from our gateway. This allows for a great deal of flexibility with meeting customers' requirements for how they want to process OAuth tokens. Back in the Resource tab, we can also configure our different billing providers, such as our Stripe integration. From here, we can go and view the different catalogs that have been associated with this provider org. In the catalog settings, you can find the gateway services, which lists the different gateway service groups that are associated with this catalog. A single catalog can have multiple gateway service groups associated. From here, we can change the different policies that have been loaded onto this gateway. That way, both the IBM provided policies as well as customer-defined policies can be managed to help extend functionality on the gateways. As part of our coffee development catalog, we have also enabled spaces. This allows different line of business groups, as well as third-party development teams, ability to work inside of the API Connect Manager, publishing their own APIs into Acme's API management platform system to allow for a robust API marketplace. User access can be limited by the provider org, by the catalog, as well as by the space, allowing for great flexibility in role-based access controls. API Connect provides a set of built-in roles, so that way we don't have to spend as much time defining our own roles, but can follow some of the best practices already found by IBM and their other customers. Lastly, we can configure notifications. This is how API Connect sends out emails to both the consumer organizations that are trying to consume APIs, as well as the provider orgs as lifecycle state changes or they need to be notified. Email templates can be configured, allowing for different line of business groups or tenants inside the platform to set out specific notifications in their own business format. Let's finish up with Owen, part of the admin and operations team. Using API Connect's Cloud Manager, he is able to configure the whole environment, as well as environmental-wide configurations, register multiple gateways, portals, and analytics in a hybrid and multi-cloud deployment, all managed from the central control plane. From the Cloud Manager, they are able to also add provider organizations, a way of creating isolated tenants that reside on the same infrastructure. From the topology view, they can add additional services that will be part of the API Connect Cloud, which is all controlled by the Cloud Manager. This includes adding additional gateways, whether they be Data Power API gateways, event gateways, additional portal service instances, or analytics instances. These can either be deployed in the same environment as the Cloud Manager or remotely as part of a hybrid topology. From the global resources settings, either Owen or Ben can configure specific environment-wide configurations, such as creating user registries that are leveraged by the whole of the environment. Same with TLS certificates, where we don't want to have to modify them for different provider organizations. Any global OAuth providers and notifications can also be configured. Lastly, there are specific settings that are for the whole of the environment. This includes things like onboarding, global role sets, user registries, catalog defaults, and audit settings, which can be used to capture all the different change, update, delete, and read information that are going on in the platform to conform with any compliance and regulations that are requiring it. As Acme Coffee Roasters keeps expanding, they have decided to have independent API Connect deployments in both AWS US East and EU West regions. But when a client creates or modifies application client IDs or secrets, X509 certificates, product subscriptions, or other self-service items, they don't get synchronized, causing expected behaviors in one environment and failures in the other. Owen now is leveraging the new background scheduled job config sync, a new utility from IBM that makes it easy to sync consumer configuration between independent systems, being demonstrated in the interactive mode. It's great for geo-replication, side-by-side upgrade, and more flexible disaster recovery topologies. Now our customer gets expected results on both systems without any action on their part. Over the course of this demo, through Acme Coffee Roasters, we have followed our different personas. Andre, our business partner, developing and discovering and consuming existing APIs. Siobhan, developing and testing across a wide range of API types and use cases. Mira, as she productized our APIs for the business, sought out insight with analytics, and assessed runtime API state with real-time anomaly detection. Followed Ben, reviewing security configurations and access controls. And of course, lastly with Owen, looking at platform-level topology and settings. In doing so, we have demonstrated API Connect's unique ability to provide a robust API lifecycle and management platform across a diverse set of use cases, user personas and needs, and complex implementation topologies.